Breakout players. Breakout players are hard to predict. One, because if we're all being honest with ourselves, we're all just guessing at this point, right? But second to that, and as there is to everything else in life, there are levels to this shit. So without further ado, I introduce to you, drumroll please, the Breakout Tier System. There are 4 levels to this tier system, starting with tier 3. Let's get right into it. Josh Green. This is a spoiler. These tiers and this entire list is going to have quite a large 2020 NBA draft influence on it. And this starts with Josh Green, obviously. Josh Green will be a difference maker for the Dallas Mavericks this season. He is a player that it seems like Jason Kidd has started to believe in, and someone who can provide a little bit of everything in a super complimentary role on a team that has aspirations to make it far into the playoffs and potentially win a championship. Mavs fans know what Josh Green brings to the table. Energy, effort, steals, blocks, pressuring the ball, running the floor, making timely cuts, making great passes, and catching lobs. He can do all of that. And put on top of that Josh has a great feel for the game, and at just 20 years old and a consistent jumper away from taking that leap and making the next step in his development, and with it seeming like Josh being fully integrated into the rotation for this team this year, I see Josh Green taking the leap and being an integral part to the Dallas Mavericks' success this season.
Jalen McDaniels off target from the right corner. Josh Green. Nice pass. Finds Bertans underneath. Okay.
The Toronto Raptors have found a gem in Delano Banton. The 6'9" guard/forward has all of the tools to become a regular contributor to the Raptors rotation this season. When you look at the skill set that this guy possesses, the ability to defend on the perimeter and be a pest while pressuring the ball, and being long enough to be a factor in passing lanes is tantalizing in itself, right? But looking at the other end of the floor, this is why he earns a spot on my list. He's a fluid ball handler, and a lot of that comes from playing point guard in college at Nebraska. And there's 2 factors into why he's added onto this list. Well, one is that there isn't a ton of guard depth on this team behind Fred VanVleet. And secondly, he fits the Raptors' vision of putting on the floor multi-positional 6'8", 6'9", 6'10 players that can provide value on both ends of the floor in terms for Delano, which will be a ball handler who can get downhill and play make and finish effectively at the rim, shooting 56% at the rim. And a player that can be on the perimeter and guard his ass off and be a plus defender. I'm expecting Delano Banton to take a leap and be a positive in this rotation for the Toronto Raptors.
There, nasty crossover. Nasty crossover. Earning that trust from his coaching staff.
First time we see Justin Champagnie in the preseason. Oh! Rackstill!
This is the season I thought that would have been last season, but it's going to be this season where Onyeka Okongwu will put pressure on Clint Capella and his role on this team with the Hawks. Big O has all of the skills and the tools to be a quality starting center in this league. So let's run down things that Big O does well on the floor. For one, offensively, he's a great screener. He can create a ton of space for his guard to get downhill or gain an advantage laterally. And then add on to that, right, his ability to roll effectively and give the ball handler an option to throw him a lob, because he's going to go up and go get it. Or he can dump it off and trust him that he can finish above the rim, over or through other bigs and through contact. Onyeka has some other skills that are on offense that's a plus too, like his ability to be an effective cutter and give his teammates a sort of safety valve, and his ability to be able to crash the glass and get putbacks are also a plus offensively. Moving it over to the defensive side of the ball, though, I think this is where Big O is going to shine this season. As a somewhat undersized big, Onyeka provides a level of versatility on this end, right? He has the foot speed to stay with guards on the perimeter and be effective in neutralizing them when they try to attack him. Moving in a little bit more, Onyeka Okongwu is a certified shot blocker, bro. He's a certified shot blocker. I'm talking about, like, for real, getting to the rim and finishing over, through, around, trying to do anything with Big O is one heck of a challenge. And I am very, very excited to see Big O flourish this season with the Atlanta Hawks.
His game.
Holiday to Okongwu.
The Pistons at the end of last season, post All-Star break, were very, very competitive and won their fair share of games. And going into this season, without Jeremy Grant, in my eyes, the Pistons are going to look at Saddiq Bey as their secondary scorer on this team, right? And he's a scorer at heart, man. Last season, he had 14 games where he scored 25 or more points. And add on top of that 14, 16 more games where he scored at least 20 points too, right? And I expect Saddiq Bey to take a step forward. I would like to see an improvement in the overall shooting efficiency from the floor, right? The three-point shooting was at a good level, which was at 34.5% on about 7 attempts a game. But the shooting from inside the arc, could stand to improve a little bit, right? Mostly under the free throw line. The majority of his missed shots came like in the middle, right below the free throw line, like the little floater, short jumper, runner range. And a lot of those shots were heavily contested, blocked, or just like bad shots. He shot under 30% in the area that's between the free throw line and the rim. Not at the rim. He shot 44% at the rim, but inside, like the free throw line, he shot 30%. That needs to improve. And on top of that, Saddiq moves and passes the eye test as someone who can be a really, really good secondary scorer next to a guy like Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey and the rest of that young core in Detroit.
Shot clock at 12. Now Bey again. Fires over Wagner. Got it. 49.
We got James Wiseman. And to put it flatly, James Wiseman was the number 2 pick in the 2020 NBA draft, and he's on the reigning NBA champions. And after missing a whole season due to injury, James Wiseman is finally healthy and available to play. In my eyes, he will provide an athletic role threat who can finish, dump off passes, and catch lobs, and provide vertical spacing on the floor, as well as the ability to, as it continues to grow, proficient popper on screens who can knock down mid-range shots and knock in the occasional 3-ball. I think that James Wiseman can really, really have a good impact on this Warriors team, just bringing energy off the bench or being in a starting role or playing next to a guy like Draymond. Especially, I want to see him and Steph Curry and Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson be able to run 2-man games, and I just want to see how that meshes, because I really think this kid is going to be really, really good for this team, and he doesn't have to do too much, which is the beauty of it. So James Wiseman will have a great year this year.
His length made him change his shot decision. Oh, Wiseman!
Kevin Porter Jr. The transition for Kevin Porter Jr. to point guard at the end of last season really started to turn a corner, and I think going into this season, Kevin will solidify his place as a piece for this Rockets rebuild going forward. Post All-Star break, KPJ put up numbers of 18.9 points, 6.1 assists per game, while shooting an efficient 36% from 3. And more impressively, in the last 10 games, the numbers got astronomically better. 23.9 points per game with 7.1 assists per game, while shooting 46.7% from the field and 39.4% from 3 on about 9 attempts a game. And for those who already know about KPJ, they know that that young man is about a bucket. But also blend into the mix, his passing ability has started to grow over the past year or so. He's not quite a wizard when it comes to passing the ball and getting others involved like a true advantage creator, but there's been, like I said, some substantial improvement since he entered the league 3 years ago. And what would be the key for KPJ going forward this season? That would be him continuing to shoot the 3-ball at the clip he was at the end of the season. And I feel as though he can really do that. And the 2 factors why I put him on my list. One is that he's finally in a stable environment with the support from his teammates and seemingly his coaches. And secondly, and more importantly, this is a contract year for him. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. If he wants a new contract, big money, big bag, he's got to go out and earn it. And I think he'll go out there and get it.
Watson on the bench, and newly acquired Rico Hines. Kevin Porter Jr.
Busy Bones. Bones Highland is definitely in for a big season. He has an increased and defined role on this Denver Nuggets team that has high expectations for themselves, and he will be a primary ball handler coming off the bench for this team. We all know what Bones is about, and he's about a goddamn bucket, bro. He is a herky-jerky style of handling the ball, and that unorthodox nature and the way he moves so fluidly with that herky-jerky style allows him to have openings that allow him to get clean looks on jumpers and create space and attack at the rim. Bones shot 36.6% from 3 last year on about 5 attempts a game, and he has range with his jumper too, bro. It's not just like at the line. He's taking 2-3 feet behind the line, 4 feet behind the line, knocking them down. And aside from that, he can get downhill with his handle, and that opens up opportunities for him to make some good things happen at the rim and get passes for open shooters and cutters. And right now, I'm just thinking about a lineup on the floor with some combination of Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, Bones, and Nikola Jokic at some point in time. And defense, I'm going to pray for y'all defenses if that happens, bro. Because that's a whole lot of off-ball movement, a whole lot of being able to shoot the 3-ball, cutting. I'm going to pray for y'all, man. Bones is going to torch the league this season.
On Monday, that's a Warriors turnover. Highland behind the back. And now goes by Kuminga. He pulled a little 2022 Smitty.
And now we have a returner from last year's list, Kelvin Johnson. Kelvin Johnson has been added to this list because of my very simple logic: room and opportunity. Kelvin Johnson is going to be the number 1 option for the San Antonio Spurs, who are currently going through a rebuild, and I don't think anybody on the Spurs is a real threat to take any shots or opportunities away from Kelvin at all. Kelvin was really fucking good last season, averaging 17 points a game, 6 rebounds on 46.6, 39.8, 75.6 shooting splits, and the shooting has improved for Kelvin year over year with an increase of 3-pointers per game. And that's not what Kelvin's game is mostly predicated on. His game is relying on putting that ball on the floor and getting to the rim, getting to the cup, getting to the Baja. And guess what? Rim pressure rules. Bruh, I don't think you understand this. Kelvin Johnson last season had 472 attempts at the rim. He made 224 out of 472 shots at the rim. That is 47% on almost 500 shots at the rim. That is fucking ridiculous. And add on top of that, shooting 39% from the 3-point line on 408 attempts. Bruh, oh my God. This shit's ridiculous, bro. And I hope you expect another leap in Kelvin Johnson's game this season.
Give up the dribble. Now Eubanks shovels to Johnson. Keldon draws the foul, and that's an and one. Is back to it. Here's Keldon going to the rack. Oh, the big body.
All right, now it's time to get into the heavy hitters. Tier 1, Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton has the keys for the Indiana Pacers, to simply put it. The Indiana Pacers are finally rebuilding, and Tyrese Halliburton right now is the centerpiece of what they'll be building around. Post-trade to the Pacers last season, he put up numbers of 17.5 points a game, 9.6 assists on 50, 41, 85 shooting splits. A full season of numbers like that, and he can truly deserve and run away with the MIP award. Tyrese's game is built upon him being an advantage creator at heart. He has an innate ability to get in the paint, draw defenders, and exploit the help coming over from the corner or the block, and being able to exploit that to the best ability, right? And scoring the ball is another branch of the advantage creation tree that Tyrese has started to really grow in that area of his game, right? Especially as a shooter. Like I said, he shot 41% from 3 in the last 26 games of the season, and there were some that were off the catch, off the bounce, with step backs and side steps and 1-2 combos into a side step. It was looking nice, bro. Even though his shots are a little bit weird, they went in, right? And they were mighty impressive, man. And add on to what Tyrese brings offensively, he can be that playmaker defensively for the Indiana Pacers too. And coming into the league, that was one of his calling cards, right? He has sticky fingers, and he will rip your pockets or jump a passing lane to start a fast break. And he also has the ability and the want-to sit down on that end of the floor and play some really solid defense and get the occasional block on a jumper or read a play and come over and get a weak side block. Tyrese Halliburton can really do it all, man, and he's going to be a name that you hear throughout the season, and he is my number 1 in the true sense of winning MIP.
They've got 2 guys back. Halliburton all the way.
What a nice little reversal.
Okay, now we're going to move into the final tier of this list, which will be the MIP tier. And I think this needs a little bit of explaining, right? With Ja Morant winning the MIP award last season, I have a feeling that there's going to be a trend over the next 2 to 3 seasons of players of that caliber, like high picks in year 2 or 3, that are already at a level that will put them past winning the MIP award for real. But they end up making a substantial leap anyway, like making their first All-Star game or winning a ton of games and getting their team into a high playoff position, which is kind of weird because Ja Morant was an All-Star before winning MIP. It was weird. So I'm making this tier. So here's the MIP tier. Anthony Simons broke out last season. He had some really impressive stretches of games last season in which he showed his abilities to be a super scorer at the NBA level who's also a playmaking threat. And when I say score, I mean he can score from all 3 levels of the floor. If you want deep range threes, he's got it. If you want a 1-2-3 combo, step back, side step, get right into a jumper 3, he's got it. He can get to the lane. He can finish in the mid-range area. He can get to the line and knock down free throws. He can do all of that. And most of this ascension last season was without Damian Lillard. And I think this season, the addition of Damian Lillard, Jeremy Grant, Josh Hart, and some of the other veterans on this team will relieve some pressure from Anthony and allow him to just be that hired gun for this team and be able to just score and fill that CJ McCollum type role. And I think Anthony Simons will be really prolific this season. And if he's able to play the full season, I think he'll be in consideration for the MIP award like he should have been last season.
Knock it down. Double team comes for Powell. Simons on the attack. Oh, Simons! Oh!
To lead Dallas.
Up top, CJ to Simons, eye-to-eye contact, and
Jordan Poole is in for another step forward in his game this season. Draymond drama aside, I just believe in what Jordan Poole can do on the floor. The creativity in which he has when he has the ball in his hands when it comes to the ability to break down defenders, probe into the lane, and finish at the rim with layups that are simply fucking stupid, or around the rim with runners and floaters and bringing it out further. His pull-up shooting ability is crazy from the 3-point line and in the mid-range, especially coming off screens. And the belief with the belief of coaches and most of the team backing him and giving him confidence, Jordan Poole will be an integral part of what the Warriors do this season and going into the future with their super young pieces like James Wiseman, who was on this list, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, Patrick Baldwin Jr. at some point in time, and guys like that, and the murkiness that comes from around the future of what Klay Thompson is going to look like, whatever's going to happen with Draymond Green after this season with his contract situation and things like that. Jordan Poole is a ray of sunshine for the Warriors, and they'll be glad to keep him, and they're going to pay him well, and he's going to have another breakout season.
6 of 20 now tonight. Poole splits everybody, gets to the hoop, and now he's got 21.
Off the mark, rebound Wiggins. Got 3 seconds to get a shot off. Wiggins to Poole. Poole gets it off in time. Oh, he banks it in! He banks it in!
Speaking of a player trying to make their first All-Star game, buddy, Tyrese Maxi is well on his way. Last season, he made a jump from 8 points a game to 17 points a game, with a 12.6% increase in his three-point shooting, and just overall on the floor being a better player and a really valuable piece for the 76ers and what they have going forward, right? This season, Tyrese, in my eyes, is the clear number 3 on this team behind James Harden and Joel Embiid, and the player that should be the guy that's trusted with the ball second most behind James Harden on the perimeter, right? And if you've been watching preseason basketball, bro, the growth has been on full display once again. The off-ball shooting, the pull-up shooting, the attacking the basket off the catch and getting to the rim and finishing with a great level of difficulty and creativity. It is blissful to watch Tyrese Maxi play the game of basketball. And teams worrying about Joel Embiid and James Harden so much offensively opens up so much for Tyrese to exploit and create advantages not for just himself, but for his teammates. I can envision Tyrese taking another leap forward and averaging 20-plus points this season. And like I said, we'll see him in Salt Lake City in February.
It's recovered by Milton. He'll advance to Maxi.
2 possessions in zone for Philly, 2 turnovers.